This week, Apple and issues of trust. LinkedIn leaks, spending money on ransomware, dead fingerprints, mysterious medical hacks, and hacking the Nintendo Switch with no patches even possible? Is that even possible? It is, and you'll hear about it on this episode along with Jason Wood from Paladin Security, who will join us for expert commentary. So make sure you stay tuned for this episode of Hack Naked News. This is Security Weekly, for security professionals, by security professionals. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show that brings you the security news each week. And despite popular belief, we do wear pants. It's Hack Naked News.
The breach was huge news at the time.
Linux monitoring tool.
List of affected devices. You can check out the link in the show notes.
Ars Technica is reporting that hackers have cracked the Nintendo Switch this week.
Tracking people's locations and stuff like that.
Figuring out where the military bases are by the United States of America. It's kind of interesting.
And not just the United States of America, as it turns out.
Do you have a website, an external presence, employees, an office? Any of these things can be compromised and attacked. How are you defending your assets? Have you penetration tested your public assets? Start 2018 by taking a proactive approach to securing your vulnerable areas. Black Hills Information Security has been helping companies find their weaknesses since 2008. Email consulting at blackhillsinfosec.com and see how they can help you sleep better at night. Welcome everyone to this edition of Hack Naked News. This is some episode number on April 24th, 2018. I'm your host, Paul Asadorian, and I am broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island. That's right. A couple of quick announcements before we get into the news and expert commentary today. Make sure you check out some of our on-demand material and previously recorded webcasts, securityweekly.com/on-demand. If you really want to know what's going on with application security especially, you will check out our webcast with Distill Network, securityweekly.com/distill. You can learn about WAF and RASP and IASP and DAST and all those fun terms and what they actually mean to you, and then learn about how you may not be protecting your web applications from bad bots from our fine friends at Distill Networks, securityweekly.com/Distill Networks. That's Distill with one L. And now, the security news. In the news this week, iTunes Wi-Fi sync feature could let attackers hijack your iPhone or your iPad remotely. Now, this one, I admit, is not as exciting as it sounds. But when we dig into it, Apple has a feature that allows you to sync your phone with your computer wirelessly. So rather than plugging it in via USB, it can sync wirelessly to your computer. Now, once you plug it in, it grants your computer access only once when you physically plug it into your USB port. So if your phone is plugged in to someone else's computer or someone else gains control of your computer, they can access your phone and reportedly do bad things. For the record, this is kind of lame. However, I do believe that the trust aspect is kind of scary, such that an attacker in this scenario who gains access to your computer could also gain access to your phone because your phone explicitly trusts your computer forever or until such time you break that trust. Now, Apple has put safeguards in place that will ask the phone user to enter a passcode before your computer accesses it. LinkedIn has a bug that allowed data to be stolen from user profiles. LinkedIn has this feature that allows data to from your LinkedIn profile to be auto-filled, and it turns out there's a problem with that, as LinkedIn only allows whitelisted domains to have access to this functionality. And LinkedIn has to approve each of those new domains. Right now, there are dozens of sites in the top 10,000 websites ranked by Alexa that have been whitelisted by LinkedIn, including Twitter, Microsoft, LinkedIn itself, and more. And the news is there was cross-site scripting found in one of those sites, which in turn means that attackers can download your data from LinkedIn without your permission, or LinkedIn's permission, or anyone's permission for that matter. So I thought that was kind of interesting, although probably most of your data in LinkedIn is already public, maybe not, but you might want to check your LinkedIn data and make sure there's nothing in there that you don't want anyone else on the internet to have, which is generally a good practice on social media sites. When you go to a security conference and its mobile app leaks your data. That's right. More data leakage. This one from the RSA conference. It's a lesson in third-party vendor risk. As with the RSA, a mobile application built by a third party for the RSA conference in San Francisco last week was found to have a few security issues of its own, including a hard-coded security keys and passwords that allowed a researcher to extract conference attendees. The conference organizers acknowledged the vulnerability on Twitter, but say that only the first and last names of 114 attendees were exposed. Who knows if that's really true or not? With over 50,000 people attending, it could have been much worse, or they're lying about it. I'm not sure which. I have no way to validate that information today, but if you have thoughts on this particular breach and information about how many attendees' information was exposed, you can find us on Twitter and other social media outlets. We are Security Weekly on Twitter. Let us know. After ransomware attack, Atlanta spent 50 times more than the ransom demand. Atlanta is setting aside more than $2.6 million on recovery efforts stemming from the ransomware attack, which crippled a sizable part of the city's online services. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's so much more than the ransom. However, you can't pay the ransom. For a lot of reasons, you can't pay the ransom, but the most important reasons are, number one, paying the ransom may not decrypt your systems at all, and you may have just been spending money and getting nothing in return because there's no honor amongst thieves. Number two, you can pay the ransom once, and the attackers may unlock your systems, but then may come back, perform the same attacks over and over again, and demand more money because, well, you paid them once, and if you paid them once, you might pay them again. And then you'll just start bleeding money out to attackers. So Atlanta is still, I think, somewhat recovering from this effort, hopefully successfully, and is applying the appropriate level of security to their systems to prevent this from happening in the future. Police try to unlock phones from a funeral home. Turns out Linus Phillips, 30 years old, was killed while trying to escape from a police at a patrol station in Largo on March 23rd. He was accused of running down police officers with his car, dragging a police officer with his car. It's pretty bad, alleged charges, but deceased, and the cops wanted his fingerprint. So after his body was released to the Sylvan Abbey Funeral Home, his family say 2 police officers tried to use his finger to unlock his mobile phone. That's kind of interesting. It doesn't state whether or not they were successful. It begs the question, do they have a warrant? Also, do they need a warrant? Also, do they need special permission to access a dead person's finger to unlock their phone? All great questions for a lawyer, and I am not one. So if you are and you want to comment, you know where to find us. Windows-powered medical scanners are being hit by healthcare hackers. Symantec reports that X-ray and MRI machines are being hacked, but no one knows why. What's confusing security professionals is the attacks don't appear to have any clear purpose. While they seem to use phishing emails as an attack vector, a common method, of course, they don't seem to share many characteristics with more of the traditional attacks. No data appears to have been stolen, no ransoms are being demanded, and the systems aren't left running any crypto miners. So what are the attackers after is still a mystery. Nintendo Switches are hacked to run an unpatchable exploit. That's right, unpatchable. You're like, why? How is it unpatchable, Paul? Please tell us. Well, flaws in the code of read-only memory are bad because one thing is they can't be patched because, as the name implies, it's read-only. So NVIDIA's Tegra line of embedded processors that comes on all currently available Nintendo Switch consoles and likely other devices is susceptible to attacks from 2 different groups. One is dubbed, and I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, Fusée-Gelée and Schaff L2. Good thing I don't have to say that again. The exploits led to a cold boot execution hack that can be leveraged by device owners to install software of their choosing. Both exploits do take advantage of a buffer overflow vulnerability in the USB software stack of read-only boot instructions, ROM or boot ROM, allowing unauthenticated arbitrary code execution. I love saying that. Unauthenticated arbitrary code execution on the game console before any lockout operations that would normally protect the chip's boot ROM take effect. So if you got a Nintendo Switch, happy hacking and putting Linux and other such software on it. There's a lot more details in the article if you are interested in hacking your Nintendo Switch. And now, a short break. And when we come back, Jason Wood from Paladin Security. Stay tuned. IT Pro TV, binge-worthy learning for IT teams. Why is it binge-worthy? It's learning presented in an engaging and entertaining talk show format that beats voice-over PowerPoint snooze fests. Watch over 3,300 hours of content in their on-demand library on your desktop, on the go, or in the comfort of your own living room. IT Pro TV is IT training you and your team actually want to watch, which means a better return on your learning investment. Get started with IT Pro TV for Teams by visiting itpro.tv/Security Weekly and start a 7-day free trial and get 30% off standard or premium IT Pro TV memberships using the code SECWeekly30. Today's determined attackers easily bypass even the most advanced network defenses. Trying to ramp up staff to detect their backdoors can cost thousands of dollars and take months, even years. With Active Countermeasures AI Hunter, we enable junior analysts to detect even the most advanced backdoors in a matter of hours. Sign up for a demo and purchase our product today by visiting activecountermeasures.com/HNN. Active Countermeasures. Make every analyst a hunter. Welcome back, everyone, to Hack Naked News. This is, in fact, episode 170, because now my laptop decided to cooperate with me. So now I know that it's episode 170, and Jason Wood from Paladin Security. I almost said Jason Paladin from Wood Security again. I get ahead of myself trying to talk too fast. I'll slow it down. I've had lots of coffee. But over to you, Jason, to talk about how Amazon wants the keys to your car.
That's right. So maybe we're just following up here on the trust issue you decided earlier with the Apple story and iTunes in your phone. Trust is kind of a thing we deal with, right? In security. Graham Cluley released a blog post today, actually, about Amazon announcing a new delivery service for Prime customers, those who are subscribing to the Prime service by Amazon. If you're in a select area, you can now get packages delivered directly to your locked car.
So wait, does that mean I'm living in my car?
Well, I suppose you could do that. I mean, there's nothing that says you couldn't be living in the car when they delivered it.
That's weird. Wait, why would I want these packages delivered to my car?
Well, I think the idea here is Amazon is pushing the idea of removing any excuse for you to not ship packages, buy something and have it shipped to you. So in this case, they're playing up the idea if I'm on vacation somewhere or I'm out.
I live in an apartment, or I live in an apartment building, or
building where you have a common area to everybody. They have this new service now to where you can actually have only Amazon drivers, it appears, show up, put the package inside of your locked car and relock the car for you as they leave. So now we've got delivery by drone in some areas, and we've got delivery into your locked house.
Mm-hmm.
Now we've got delivery into our locked car. Now the first thing that came to my mind as I read this was, all right, how the heck does this work? Obviously, my 24-year-old pickup truck is probably not a prime candidate for this service. Physical keys are actually not used in any portion of the delivery. So what basically is going on here is if you have a 2015 General Motors vehicle and I believe a 2012 Volvo vehicle or newer, and you're a subscriber to GM's OnStar or Volvo's On-Call service, you can now get delivery to your vehicle directly.
Yeah, and that makes sense because I have a GMC vehicle and they give you an app and you can unlock your car and start it and stuff. So
right,
yeah,
exactly. And so Amazon is leveraging that service, right? Which caught my attention really because essentially we've got a third party now who's building apps to interact with your vehicle.
This is third-party risk for your own personal, right? Because, I mean, you have to have some level of trust with GMC to be able to manage access to your vehicle. And I think they've done a really good job with security. In fact, last year at DEF CON, happened to be at the bar go figure. Met someone who worked on the team at GMC doing security, and I feel better about my GMC vehicle knowing that him and his team are doing what I thought was a great job. But as we've talked about third-party risk, now you're trusting that your vehicle security, not just with GMC, but now with Amazon. That could be bad.
And whoever that person is that Amazon has hired to make the delivery to your vehicle. Obviously, like I said, there are a few hoops you have to jump through. You have to be a subscriber to Prime in a certain delivery location, and you have to have a vehicle where you're a subscriber to their vehicle management API, basically, or service that they have for it. And in this case, the Amazon driver, not a FedEx or UPS driver, is the one who's going to be doing this. They have an app on their side. They show up to your vehicle, say, hey, we're here to make the delivery. The app on their side unlocks the vehicle. They stow it inside of your car. Now they show this happening in the trunk in all of their examples, but they could just unlock the car and they could put it in your back seat, whatever. And then relocking it after they're done. And then you get a notification on your phone saying, hey, the delivery's been made, your package is in the car, go pick it up. Now, this obviously involves some planning ahead because, as you alluded to about, do I live in my car? How does this work? We have to have the car in a place where they can find it. And so when you make your order and you say, deliver to my vehicle, you have to say, okay, it's going to be about here at this time so that they can then make the delivery. And they are talking about, in some instances, some same-day delivery as well as things like 2-day delivery or what have you. In some ways, to be honest with you, this service bugs me a little bit less than the idea of allowing access to my home. Because one, I don't keep that much important stuff inside of my vehicle because glass breaks really easily.
Oh, not even that. The couple times I've had to have someone open a car door, get into my car because on the snowy day, I locked my keys in my car while it was running, and it's a brand new car. And I was like, oh, that's bad. And like really all they do now, dude, and this happened to us at a rental car facility when we went to a conference last year too. The battery had died and actually locked the keys in the car because the battery was dead. You couldn't open it and our luggage was in it. It's always a bad situation when the keys are locked in. But what they do is they just take a wedge. So here I am explaining how to break into cars on the air. So they take a wedge and they wedge your door open a little bit, and then they get a long thin metal rod and they stick it in and they just push the unlock button. That's all they do. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, last time I locked my keys in the car, it was the same kind of thing. Shoved the wedge in. In their case, they didn't have the unlock button, so what he did is he hooked a piece of string up to the end of that rod.
Yep.
Fed it down there around the latch. Essentially, used the fishing line to put some tension on it. Popped it open. It was really easy. It looked like an easy $50 is what the guy made.
Right. I'm thinking we should carry that around. I mean, it's kind of hard to carry a long metal rod around with you, right? I guess you could get a retractable one. I mean, you could probably carry a kit with you. Of course, if that kit's locked in the car, it doesn't do you much good.
Not at all. Yeah. Well, I got my kit, but it's locked in the trunk.
Locked in the trunk,
behind
right?
Screw it. So anyhow, yeah, I like I said, it bothers me a little bit less because the idea of somebody coming into my home was a little bit more personal than coming into my vehicle. To me, but it is interesting. We've got a third party who now has access, who's being authorized rather, to develop an application and access your vehicle via an API. Now, this leads to questions like, well, all right, what does this third party have access to do to my vehicle? You made the comment about turning your car on or off, right? And I've seen things for heating up engines and unlocking cars and getting diagnostic information, location information. Just what is being authorized to Amazon in this case, to pull from the API. And
more importantly, how are they restricting that access, right? Like, in the my GMC link or whatever the app is called, right? Once you're in, you can start the car, you can unlock the car, lock the car, and do all kinds of things. One likes to think that it's restricted, but what if it's really not?
Exactly. I mean, there's all kinds of things on the back end here. I mean, we've seen plenty of examples where an API allows this user level to only take these actions and stuff like that. But if you've done penetration testing against services like this,
right.
like I'm sure you have, Paul, like I have. You find instances where this doesn't work real well. So I'm glad to hear that you talked to somebody who worked at GM, because one of the thoughts I had was like, I don't know anybody who works at GM or Volvo on these services. I can't really comment on how good their security is.
It makes me think that someone,
no knowledge.
My optimist in me makes me think that someone from that team was like, yeah, no, you're going to lock down this API so that they can't do anything but unlock and lock the vehicle. I would hope.
Because I don't want that Amazon driver turning on my car.
And just getting away and driving off with it, right?
Yeah, that's a sweet looking ride. I'm going to take it with me.
Well, because it's one thing, as we talked about, the ease of access to getting into the vehicle. It's yet another thing to be able to start that vehicle. So
yeah. Yep. And so I did some hunting around, and sure enough, you can become a developer for GM GM cars. There's some validation that goes on. It's not as simple as becoming like a developer for Apple or Google or something like that for mobile platforms, right? You have to actually send an email in to request access. I assume that I hope that there's some strong vetting going on here. Right. Beyond just creating an app. You can't just create an account and say, hey, let me have that.
I am Boris from Russia. I would like API.
Yeah, exactly. Now,
Sure.
GM does actually have a bug bounty set up with HackerOne, which I thought was interesting, but the mechanism behind that primarily seems to be a way of reporting bugs without getting prosecuted, as long as you follow their rules. So anyhow, overall, the announcement from Amazon is interesting because it highlights the idea of a couple of things. One, the digital realm is interacting heavily and much more heavily now remotely with the physical realm. We're now talking about controlling our vehicles to some extent via an API remotely. The trust behind this you hope is being done right, that they're validating these people, that they're setting up the API correctly, they're restricting access to things, so that you only have access to that which your app has been authorized to perform, like in this case, unlock and unlock the vehicle. We definitely live in a world where this is going to be, is becoming more and more the case, where we hop on our phone and we can start to make things happen around us in the physical realm. One of the things I thought was an interesting thought that came to my mind, rather, is the idea that OnStar is not a new service, and people had talked about this when it first was released. Oh my gosh, GM has got access to these vehicles and stuff like that. What I was kind of curious about was if services like this that Amazon's offering and the convenience that people may find from it suddenly puts more demand for the OnStar service or On-Call from Volvo. More people are willing to pay that subscription because they want these other benefits that really don't have anything to do with their car,
right?
Other than some extra convenience to them. So that's kind of an interesting thing. I think it'll be fun to watch and see how that happens. I would get a kick out of the idea that all of a sudden demand for OnStar On-Call goes up so that you can drop my latest shipment of, I don't know, whatever, into my car because I don't want it, dropped off my front porch where somebody can steal it, or left with a receptionist.
Come on, what's the last thing you bought on Amazon, Jason?
Last thing I bought on Amazon, actually was some leather working tools.
Yeah, I bought dog pill pockets.
Sounds legit to me. How many dogs do you have?
4.
4? Yeah, I got 2. I'm familiar with it.
Yep. Awesome. Closing thoughts on the story, Jason?
Closing thoughts. To me, I'm just gonna leave it as one. Trust issues are between these third parties is going to be interesting thing to watch out. But interesting to me is also to see how powerful a force that convenience is in the market.
Jason Wood from Paladin Security, thank you very much for expert commentary this episode. Thank you everyone for listening and watching Hack Naked News. See you next time.